Welcome to Sampstra Games, the place to find new strategy games, and welcome to my top 5 games of April 2020. This one is a little bit late, so I apologize for that. But now let's jump into number 5. Alder's Blood. This is a tactical RPG. It's a fully released game. What is really interesting about this one is that as opposed to typical RPGs where everything is all about attack, here it's all about stealth. You're playing as a group of hunters in a turn-based combat, and your goal is to kill off monsters. And the way you do this, you focus on stealth. So you have to pay attention to things like the wind direction or the loudness of your weapons, which I think is really, really cool and kind of gives you a different spin on the typical combat. Aside from that, this has all the sort of good stuff that you have in a typical RPG, which is a fantastic and deep story, searching for different resources, weapon crafting, and things like that. It's a very, very nice and complex game. I highly recommend it. Now let's jump to number 4. Plebby Quest, The Crusaders. Now this is a game that's fully released, and it's a 4X strategy game where you play as a leader of a nation and you try to conquer the rest of the world. It has a lot of mini games, which I think is really special about this game. For example, the way the combat works is essentially like sending little birds to tell your units to move forward and backwards or swap position, things like that in combat. It is real-time combat. You also have mini games like, for example, for research, where you have to drop books on top of other books and try to connect the same colored ones and things like that. So it's essentially like a series of mini games within a 4X game, which I think is quite fun. It's a very interesting game, so I highly recommend this one as well. And now let me jump to number 3. Dimension Reign. Dimension Reign is currently in early access, and it's a roguelike deck builder. If you know me, you know that I love roguelike deck builders, so this one is no exception. What makes this one unique are 2 things. First of all, instead of playing with one character, you actually play with 2, and they alternate their turns, so you're always only able to play half of your cards that belong to that specific character. The second and even more unique thing about this game is you have the ability to extend your turn. If you can kill off an enemy in one shot, you get something called a break, which allows you to switch to the character and continue the turn. So normally you have 1 action per character, but with the breaks you can actually extend it and you can kill the whole floor of enemies in a single turn, which I think is super, super fun. The game also has some other really interesting aspects like karma, where essentially you get some sort of like bonuses, and if you have a lot of bonuses of the same type, you get an additional bonus. So if you play this game for a while, you can have like a whole list over the whole screen of sort of like bonuses that you have on your character, which can be really, really fun. So I quite like this one as well. Now let's jump to number 2. Radio General. Now this is another fully released game, and this is a war game, but as opposed to typical war games where the idea is that you kind of have your units and you tell who to attack and things like that, here your commander is controlling your units through a radio. So it works like a real-time strategy game, and essentially you don't know where your units are, so you have to kind of keep asking them like, hey, where are you, what's happening, and they sort of give you feedback through the radio, and that's how you kind of determine where they are, and then you can give them new instructions on where to go. It's a really interesting idea because it gives you quite a different feeling as opposed to the typical sort of war games, whether they're turn-based or RTS, where you kind of really are like all the units and you essentially have all the informations about yourself, and more often than not also about the enemy units. Here it's more like you don't know and you have to kind of figure it out, and you have to keep asking. You don't actually know the state of the enemy, you don't know where they are. You only know if your units see them and if you manage to ask them in time. So it really gives you kind of like a different feeling, and I like that quite a bit. Now, before we reveal number 1, we gotta talk about the patron's choice. However, the patron's choice this time is actually number 1. So let's talk about number 1. Help Will Come Tomorrow. Now, this game is absolutely amazing. What this game is about is that you have a group of people who crashed on a train and now they have to survive in a very harsh climate in Siberia and they're being hunted by the renegades. The game is split into two parts, a day part and a night part. The day part consists of essentially camp building, where you try to build different stuff so that your people can survive, and expeditions where you send your people out to find resources so you can build even more stuff. The night part is more sort of like a visual novel part of the game where you learn about your characters and tell the story and things like that and kind of progress through the story part of the game. And the whole part is whether you can survive in this incredible harsh climate with your group of characters. It's a very, very fun and exciting game, and it kind of really gets you into it because the atmosphere of the game is amazing, and I've made a whole series on this game from beginning to end, so if you'd like to check it out, you definitely should, and I highly recommend this one. Alright, so these were my top 5 games for April 2020. Let me know what are your top 5 games for April. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe because I show off new games on this channel so that you know what to play next. And click that like button. I'll see you there. Bye bye.